apparently my responsibility due to work carried out at my property, even though the home is under construction and I imagine many other trucks have been visiting this location. This next picture is also O'Reilly's Road, which is north. This picture is just north of 50809, which is the location of another new home under construction. This section of road is not slated for repair. I draw this to your attention for this picture to illustrate the condition of the road, as it is indicative of many areas of the road and the surrounding roads of the area, which is pretty normal for that area, and yet apparently this is not marked for repair. So are we to assume that this is deemed acceptable by the town? This picture is to illustrate, slide number 4, as you see in front of you, is to illustrate, this is just south of 51025 Deeks Road South, which is also not marked for repair. Once again, indicative of normal road conditions on Deeks Road South. This shows an area of multiple road surfaces that are substandard with a combination of tar and chip, asphalt, loose stones, gravel, severely degraded road surfaces, depressed, cracked roads, and simply falling apart. This next picture, this is one of many residents that run and operate trucks and trucking companies that reside within one of the affected areas listed on the alleged list of repairs that I have been deemed responsible. Out of respect and courtesy to the resident, I am not providing this address. I simply wish to illustrate that many trucks not only utilise the roads on a daily basis, but many residents also own and operate trucks and trucking companies from their place of residence on surrounding roads and throughout the township. This picture is also a different resident and reaffirms my point. This is another resident nearby with exactly the same scenario that I just pointed out. A trucking company operating a business from their home very close by, utilising the same roads that we are talking about this evening, with multiple tractor trailers operating from their place of residence. I'm sure
Excuse me, just sorry for a second. Just to let you know that we are now streaming live, so it is working. The tech issue has been fixed. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm sure these people hope that their exorbitant amount of tax dollars they pay both locally and federally to keep their trucks on the road and businesses going would mean that they shouldn't have to worry about the possible threat of having to pay for the roads they drive on, as well as the expensive equipment they need to make a living to keep this country running. This slide, number 7, this is the list of repairs I received from Mr. Richard Nan from the Township of Wainfleet via email on March 30. This was 13 days after we were initially told we had caused damage to the roads and that we could expect a list of damage that was yet to be determined. That was 13 days after we stopped work. We received this list of alleged damages from the township. During that 13 days, it rained. During that 13 days, it snowed. During that 13 days, salt trucks salted the road. During that 13 days, there were 2 scheduled garbage collections from the region. The region uses those roads to collect the garbage. The region uses heavy trucks to collect the garbage. Among the many issues with this list, not to mention the extent of it, is the determination that in the first instance by the township, the road damage is allegedly my responsibility. I'd like you to take a moment to have a look at that list. Just let that sink in. The last picture I have here for you to look at is the route outlined in blue. This is the route taken by the trucks from north to south, so moving from the top down north to south, taken by the trucks delivering soil to my property as was indicated by the contractor. The area highlighted in yellow rectangle is south of my property, which makes up a great portion of the list of alleged affected areas. Given the direction of the route, the trucks were leaving my property empty. My property's indicated there is the red square on the left. They were leaving empty, heading in the southern direction towards Forks Road. Once again, the trucks were empty when travelling on the road highlighted in yellow. I was told that town staff expressed concern about the weight of the load of the trucks. It was communicated to me by the contractor that the trucks were following local guidelines and within weight restrictions. When I communicated with Mr. Nan, he commented that we had too many trucks on the road at one time. I feel like the rules were changed whenever I provide substantiating claims. If indeed the trucks were overweight or breaking any road rules, one would assume the MTO would be notified and fines would be issued. I was told that the MTO was on site and conducted inspections and allowed the trucks to continue to operate. I was also informed that members of staff and/or bylaw officers filmed and photographed the trucks and even went so far as to follow them to the site where the materials were coming from and took photographs and video of them from that site as well. If this amount of effort was put into investigating the issue, I question if the MTO was notified by the township if there were any infractions occurring, and if not, it begs the question, why not? Would it not be in the best interest of the town to halt operations if indeed their concern was damage to infrastructure? We were ordered to clean the road and complied immediately. If indeed the roads were deemed to be under threat of damage, why did the township not order the work to stop? I appeal to council to review the circumstances surrounding this case and indeed examine and review the bylaw itself. I refer in particular to section 5.6, where it states the owner must remove any fouling or correct an injury to a township road, and if they don't, the township may, without notice, carry out the work at the expense of the owner. There is no definition in the bylaw for what injury to a township road means. Foul is defined as to deposit any material on a township road. This was brought to our attention, and our contractor rectified this on the same day as notice was given about the complaints. This treatment and experience has caused a great deal of stress to us as new property owners in the township, when all we wanted to do was beautify our property and provide some natural privacy for us and our neighbours to enjoy. I feel that the bylaw is unfair and skewed in a way to negatively impact residents and foot them with the bill for wear and tear through general use on what our tax dollars are supposed to have contributed to in the first place. I hope that council can appreciate the stress and terribly unexpected situation we have suddenly been handed, while our only intent is to improve and beautify our property and subsequently that of our neighbours and our community. I appreciate your time and thank you again for allowing me to present my concerns and speak to you this evening.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Mr. McLean. Are there any questions from council to Mr. McLean? Okay, seeing none. A motion then, I think, probably is in order to receive this. Sorry. All right, discussion amongst members about it? Questions? Nothing? Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to receive this report? Councillor McClellan makes that motion. Seconder, please. Councillor Van Vliet. And I know our staff are working on this and trying to bring a resolution to it, so that process will carry on. I'll look for a recorded vote then. In favor or opposed to receiving this report, Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Okay, didn't hear you, Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Thank you. And Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
Okay, so we'll carry on working on that with the staff. Thank you very much, Mr. McLean, for bringing that to our attention.
Appreciate it.
And I've been down the road a couple times and looked at it, and there is definitely needs some work done to it. So we'll figure it all out.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
Okay, we'll move on to, and as I said, we're now streaming live. Everything's working the way it should be. Staff reports, admin staff report, to look to our CAO. Mr. Colassa for the COVID report, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. Can you hear me okay? In that case, this is the COVID impact report for the month of April 2022, and I'm very pleased to be able to advise that effective March 15th of this year, the emergency declaration that has been in effect for almost 2 years has been terminated. Wainfleet, along with the other lower tier municipalities in Niagara Region, as well as Niagara Region itself, discontinued the declared emergency, and we are all moving towards the resumption of services in a more normal fashion. At this time, again, Wainfleet has been open to the public for several months now, so people can come in and do their business as normal. We are moving towards reinitiating all our previous programs and facilities, reopening, all of that stuff. So at this time, very pleased to be able to say that this could very well be the final COVID update report that you'll be receiving from me moving forward. That said, I will make just one comment and say that there is, observations are indicating there is a further uptick in cases occurring, so the pandemic itself is certainly not over. And to that end, I know that there are vaccination clinics continuing throughout Niagara Region, as well as clinics being held here in Wainfleet in the coming days and in coming weeks. So we all continue to encourage the public and everyone to be vaccinated where possible. But that summarizes the report at this time. If anyone has any questions, I'll try to respond.
Okay, thank you. We have a mover and a seconder to receive the admin staff report 11/2022 respecting COVID. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Gilmore. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, recorded vote. Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
Favor. What?
I'm in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we move to our building staff report. Extension of conditional building permit for 11605 Beach Road West. And we'll look to our planner, Ms. Earl, to provide a report on that, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. In accordance with the Building Code Act, this conditional permit originally allowed the owner to commence construction while they were awaiting permits from the Ministry of Environment in order to place their holding tank on their property on the opposite side of the privately owned road. And they also needed a minor variance from the Committee of Adjustment. So it's important to note that the footing and foundation has been constructed. The required minor variance has been approved with no appeal. The applicant has been very proactive in working with the MECP, trying to get their approval for the septic system, but however, that remains outstanding. So really, staff are supportive of extending the expired compliance date, which was originally January 1st of this year, and extending it, the conditional building permit, until July of this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Potential motion being that BSR 002-2022 respecting the extension of the conditional building permit at 11605 Beach Road West be received, and that the Township of Wainfleet amend the conditional building permit agreement with Kevin Baum to allow for an extension of the existing conditional permit compliance date to July 1st, 2022. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor McClellan. And any discussion or questions to our planner? Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this long enough? I mean, these people have waited 5 weeks just to get their document on someone's desk at the Ministry of Environment. Like, did we have to pick July? That's only 3 months. Who knows when these people are going to give them their permit? Like, I don't want it to have to come back in July. Like, why don't we give this guy 6 months? Is there some reason why it's only to July?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that the chief building official recommended July in discussion with the applicant. The understanding was that he would have it by then, but I don't disagree with your point about the lengthy time and processing it takes from the ministry offices to get those permits. So I leave it up to council if they have a suggestion for a new date. That's not a problem.
Yeah, September 1st would be my suggestion.
Okay, that's an amendment to the motion, Councillor Gilmore, to make it to September 1st. Yeah, seconder for that, Councillor McClellan. Okay.
I have a letter into the ministry. It's been there 12 weeks and I haven't got a response yet from them. And I've been dealing with them for 4 years on this project. They're brutal.
Okay, let's give them to the end of the year then.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, if we can make that amendment to December 31st, 2022, hopefully that gets it done by then.
Yeah, well, that's fine with me. Like, I don't know, as long as if the CBO has no other reason other than he just picked that, if there's some other reason, I'd like to know about it, but if there isn't, then I just don't want to give these people the runaround because it really doesn't affect us, in my opinion. Like what, as long as he wants it done worse than anybody.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are missing the summer, not us.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so that amendment, we make that a friendly amendment? Okay, that's done. Any other discussion on this? Okay, recorded vote then. Councillor McClellan,
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councillor Cridland,
Opposed.
and Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That is carried. Just the amendment? It was a friendly amendment. All right, yep. Okay, so now we vote on the motion as amended to December 31st. In favor or opposed, Councillor McClellan,
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councillor Cridland,
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, move on to community development services regarding our beach bylaw. And again, we'll look to our planner, Ms. Earl, to speak to that, please.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Since the provincial lockdowns at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, Wainfleet beaches have seen a major influx in out-of-town visitors seeking to enjoy recreational activities. As a result, the township has received a drastic increase in the number of complaints over the last few years with respect to the public's use of the township's beaches. This has proven increasingly difficult for our bylaw enforcement staff to monitor. As part of the public consultation, Council held a beach open house on September 23, 2020. Many of the comments and complaints received pose significant risk to public health and safety, and these include issues such as overcrowding, illegal and unsafe parking, operation of businesses from beaches without municipal approval, littering, beachgoers using alcohol, tents, barbecues, and bonfires, which impact other beach users' enjoyment and neighboring property owners. Beachgoers bringing pets and other animals to the beach, trespassing onto private beaches and nearby private properties, as well as various public nuisances, including public urination, defecating, and a general lack or disregard of the consideration for the neighborhood. Since the public open house, Township Council has supported staff in exploring ways to address these beach complaints. This included engaging with public sector and enforcement partners, such as the Conservation Authority, the Niagara Region, and the Niagara Regional Police Service. We as well also put in an additional regulation of parking. The 2021 Residential Beach Parking Permit Program was seen as a success, with 309 permits issued to local residents to utilize designated parking areas. This program remains in place and will continue for upcoming and future beach seasons. With respect to enforcement, only some of the offenses or complaint types can be dealt with under current township bylaws, that being noise and nuisance bylaws. Therefore, in order to enforce the collective complaint types, a new municipal beach bylaw is required. As directed by council, staff have worked closely with the township's solicitor through the process of drafting the bylaw, as well as all relevant township departments and the Niagara Region Public Health, who were consulted and have reviewed the proposed bylaw. The draft bylaw is required to regulate, control, and prohibit certain activities on municipally owned beaches and road allowances. This includes Reeves Bay Beach and the road allowance beaches on Bellevue Beach Road, Side Road 18, Augustine Road, and Daly Ditch Road. The key regulations considered in the draft bylaw include the definitions that are incorporated into the bylaw, prohibited conduct on municipal beaches, which include fires, defecating or leaving human waste, animals, tents, glass containers, barbecues, generators, alcohol, smoking, littering, damage to beach property or signage, excessive noise, operation of motor vehicles, and the selling or renting of merchandise. There are exemptions included, so that's exemptions from the prohibited conduct with respect to events or tents that are all previously authorized by the township, as well as service animals, etc. For enforcement and penalty, staff notes that the bylaw will not be enforced under the Administrative Monetary Penalty System, AMPS, but rather it's going to be enforced under the Provincial Offences Act. So as such, the short form wording and the fine amounts need to be sent off to the Attorney General's office for review by the Chief Justice. This is generally a lengthier process, so really it's staff's intent to have the bylaw in force and effect prior to the 2022 summer beach season. This bylaw will provide staff with the necessary tools to be able to effectively manage complaints and enforcement of the municipally owned beach and associated road allowances. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Earl. So, motion being that Community Development Services Staff Report 001-2022 be received as information, and that the draft municipal beach bylaw appended to this report be presented to Council for adoption at the next available meeting for consideration. I have a mover and a seconder to put it on the floor for discussion. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. Okay, thank you. And discussion. Councillor Van Vliet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Lindsay, thank you for the work on this, and staff, and I know you and I have communicated about this already. 3.3, where section 3.3, where we're not allowed to have animals on the beach. I understand where we're going with this, but I don't want to restrict residents who are very responsible and have been going for decades to walk their dogs on the beach, and all of a sudden they're not allowed. Is there somehow we can tweak that so that they can, those that are cleaning up after their animals are allowed to? Oh, I've got more, John.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that comment, Councillor Van Vliet. It is important to note that the bylaws are enforced on a complaint-driven basis. So if we have landowners that are generally following the rules, that are cleaning up after their pets, I can't see that there being a complaint coming in regularly with the landowners that live nearby. Typically, this is to address those that are taking or abusing having the animals on the beach, or large animals that are leaving feces, large amounts of feces on the beach, which public health has, addressed as being a public health concern. So the intent is that it's only going to be enforced on a complaint basis, and really we would leave it up to the officer's discretion as to whether or not a penalty will be issued.
Okay, just you carry on a sec, Councillor Krillin. The tech is telling us that we're not speaking enough into the mic, and under the current tech issue we're having, it's not picking it up very well. So if everybody could be sure to speak directly into the microphone. Thank you.
Sure. And 3.4, the tent issue, and I spoke to you about this, are the child play domes, they're fine, right? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. Under the bylaw, there's different types of tents identified. There's permissible tents and prohibited tents, and it really just relates to the size of the tent.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have one, maybe two more. 3.17, the no music. So you can play music, just not loud. Who gets to decide how loud it is? And I know in your email you had said profanities in music. Well, we don't get to choose what people listen to. So I think that's a little slippery slope there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is a great question. And the way that 3.17 is worded is that no person at a municipal beach property shall cause or permit to be caused any noise that is likely to disturb other users of the municipal beach property. And then it goes on to identify how that noise is created: radio, equipment, speakers, etc. The intention of this is the thought of, having families with small children nearby, and having, a group of maybe younger adults that are blaring music that is not enjoyable or appropriate for younger listeners to hear. So again, these policies or these regulations are for driven based on complaints only. So we will leave it up to the officer's discretion, whether it's enforced under this and or the noise bylaw.
And if I could. And the last one is, sorry, I don't know what section it is. is it 3.7? No, it's not 3.7. It's the one where you can't hit a golf ball. Like you couldn't tee off into the lake or hit a ball with a bat or a badminton racket. I don't get that one at all.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have taken a look at a lot of other municipal beach bylaws for those destination towns that have beaches. And quite often some of the complaints come back that people are throwing baseballs, hitting baseballs, golf balls, and they end up onto adjacent properties or damaging private property. And that's where the intention comes from there. So again, it will be complaint-based driven. I would assume hitting golf balls into the lake would also be a form of littering. So unless they're going to retrieve it, I don't think that's happening. So the intention there is to avoid damage to adjacent properties and private property and then having to trespass onto those properties. So within reason, it will be up to the discretion of the officer.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. I just don't want to tell people they can't enjoy the little bit of beach that we have. But thank you.
That's not the intention, but thank you.
I think our planner has really hit on the point there that it's complaint driven, and then still at the discretion of our officers. So if it's really out of control activity, then we do enforcement. If it might even just be a warning and it's finished, and so it's good. So any other questions or comments there? Councillor McClellan.
I was just going to comment on the animals. I don't have a problem. So like Councilor Van Vliet said, somebody that's always walked their dog down the beach, if it's on a leash and it's walking from one side of the beach to the other and down around, I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with dogs sitting there and it's hot day and there's little kids around and they may get bitten. I've seen it happen, so why put it there, right? Dogs aren't supposed to be everywhere.
Okay. Any other points or discussion? Councillor Cridland? Councillor Cridland, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Is the audio okay? I'll just do a quick check. Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. No, thank you. I might have more than one here, but again, I thank staff for following through and continuing to help us try to manage, what we have seen in the past. One thing is really the name of this. So historically, we don't have a lot of beaches, and I just want to be clear that this is sort of a beach and road allowance bylaw. So when we start talking about the beach pieces at the end, I'm just not certain if we're getting into some liability that when you say beach, there's expectations of the assets that then might be needed to support beach. So in the past, work's been done and it's been very successful, and it continues to progress to make sure that citizens are enjoying these areas where, washrooms are provided, parking's provided, et cetera, et cetera. So I would prefer this be amended to where it's Reeves Bay Beach and road allowance bylaw. So that's one, and then we can make those definitions. If I can continue, Mayor?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. And then Ms. Earl also commented about the difference in terms of AMPS versus this being through NRP or the regional police or provincial. So again, to help us manage expectations, we have bylaws here and it's very local and it's a complaint form that goes to Mark, our bylaw officer department, and then there's a certain process. So perhaps Ms. Earl then can just help us understand that it's not quite the same when we say complaint driven. So in other words, if I write in and say I saw something yesterday or after a long weekend, and I make all the formal complaints, that's not how this particular bylaw will be enforced. So maybe I'll stop there, and maybe Ms. Earl could just comment a little bit on that, on how it's going to work. Okay,
I look to our planner to speak to that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the complaint process does remain the same. It's not different. The only difference is how the penalties and how the penalties are issued. So we can't apply AMPS in this case because the offenses are happening on our own beaches, not private property. So it will be going through the Provincial Offences Act and enforced that way after the issuance has occurred.
It's important to note, too, that this just applies to our beaches, which is outlined in the report there, and other beaches this bylaw does not affect. So, Councillor Cridlin, did you have more? Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'm still not sure that's going to work the way citizens or residents are going to be expecting, but we'll see. Obviously, we're going to be monitoring this going forward, and we've had great success on other tools we've implemented. So thank you for that. The only other thing is each one of these road allowances has, had traditionally been used by that neighborhood in its own unique ways. So I just want to be clear for those that are, closer in proximity and have been using these road allowances for purposes of accessing their property or repairing their property or doing things that are related to the ownership of their property. The intent of this bylaw isn't to do anything on that type of behavior. And perhaps again, Ms. Earl could just comment on that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. You're correct, Councillor Cridlin, that should the local residents in the area want to access the rear of their property through the beach, if they have deeded access, the intention of this bylaw is not to prohibit that, not to prohibit them bringing in their tractor to do some work in the backyard or move some stuff around. The intention is the inappropriate use of the beaches, so that those uses can continue. And again, this is complaint driven as well as to the discretion of the officer, so that was not the intent of the bylaw.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cridlin. Councillor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so our bylaws officers will only be able to issue parking tickets. They won't do anything on the beach, right? So the beach will be Niagara Regional Police?
Look to our Lindsay to speak to that.
No, it will be enforced through our bylaw enforcement officers.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Lindsay, how do these rules line up in scope with what occurs at the regional beach? As far as, do they line up similarly? Are theirs more strict, less strict? Or
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do not have the region's beach rules with me at the moment, but we can look that up.
I see our CAO is wanting to have some input.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. My recollection is that the last time we worked with the Niagara region regarding the year-to-year operations of the regional beach, which the township actually performs on behalf of the region, they actually did not have a bylaw in place to regulate that beach in any form. We have approached them with a suggestion or a recommendation that regional council enacting a bylaw to regulate that property would provide us, for example, the tools to deal with some of the issues that we are having out there. We have sort of pointed to bylaws similar to the one that is before you this evening, and certainly one of the things we would intend on doing is once council enacts a bylaw that deals with our beaches, we would share that with regional council or staff at the region to sort of encourage them to review it and perhaps implement tools or regulations that are comparable to our own bylaw. So again, at this time, the region does not have any specific bylaw regulating the regional beach here in Wainfleet.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Councillor, everybody's had a chance to have their input, so the motion is on the floor, and we'll do a recorded vote in favor or opposed.
No, Donna.
Sorry, Mary, through you.
Councillor Cridlin, go ahead.
Pardon me. In terms of just renaming it, I don't know if that would have to have just direction to staff, or you want that as an amendment. But I would like to see that split out like that. So if that just has to be staff direction, that's great.
Okay, I'm sorry, Councillor Crillon, I just missed the first part of what you said. Oh, renaming.
Just the renaming. If that can just be staff direction or direction to staff, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Will?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think direction to staff, if there's consensus from amongst members of council, is certainly sufficient. Prior to giving that direction, I would point out one element, and that is the definition of municipal beach property that is contained in the bylaw itself, which details, again, the lands identified in Schedule A, which include a whole bunch of different elements. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, from a technical perspective, if you wanted, instead of municipal beach property, to be the chocolate cake property, you establish the definition in the bylaw yourself, and the road accesses that the councillor was referencing are included within the definition of municipal beach. So if you want to rename it, if we could get some sort of clear direction of the name you want to give it, I guess is the key thing.
I look to Councillor Cridlin. You still have the floor for a minute. Do you have a name that you want to put out there, or?
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and thank you, CAO, for trying to shed some light on that. I guess other councillors that have been involved in the work in the past, perhaps would better appreciate that, we are looking at just a renaming exercise here that if it proves problematic, then I guess that's the way it is. If there's an opportunity here to make it a little clearer, that's what I was looking to do. I don't necessarily have the clear answer other than we have a Reeves Bay beach. There are other beaches that aren't Wainfleet, and we have road allowances. So there happens to be sand at the end of those at the moment. Some years there's not. So if it's clear that it's separate for now, and there's not facilities or amenities or anything to support that definition or that explanation that we're going to go forward. This is the first time that I've seen that this type of naming has been placed on these pieces, and that's fine. So again, if the rest of council doesn't see a concern with that, I guess that's council then, and I'm happy to leave it like that. I'm just raising it because, again, lots of work has been done in the past. So that I'm happy to proceed either way then, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cridlin. Councillor Gilmore, are you?
Thank you, Mayor. Why don't we call it municipally owned beach property? Because that's really what it is. And end of problem.
Look to the planner. Do you see any issue with that from your perspective, all the legalese part of it? Not to put you on the spot, but I guess I did. So.
Well, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I would leave it up to council it's your bylaw, what you want to call it. The municipal beach bylaw was kind of the short form wording. Right at the beginning of the title, it's the bylaw to protect, prohibit, regulate, and control municipally owned beaches in the Township of Wainfleet is technically the long title. So,
go ahead, Councillor Gilmore.
The problem is the end of a road allowance really isn't a, quote, beach. So, but it is municipally owned beach property, beachfront property. So that's all. I'm just trying to make it as vague as possible without advertising that it's a municipal beach, which is, I mean, the regional beach, we call it the regional beach only because they own the property. And they can call it what they want. It could be called the regionally owned beach. So that's all I'm trying to do.
Okay, so go ahead, Will.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, from the sounds of it, I'm seeing sort of a consensus forming. Section 1.1 of the bylaw speaks to this bylaw shall be known as the municipal beach bylaw. I'm hearing that you want to amend that to this bylaw will be known as the municipal beach property bylaw.
or the bylaw controlling municipally owned beach property. Something you have to do, take the municipal out and make it plural.
Okay, Councillor Van Vliet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think what Councillor Cridland's getting at is we're trying to get away from the word beach and insert road allowance, or just have Reeves Bay Beach, because that actually is the only beach in Wainfleet, and the other ones are road allowances, to definitely distinct, because we worked so hard to not have an Augustine beach, to make it Augustine road allowance. I think that's what we're trying to get at. Like, we don't want to be beach, like advertised beach. So if we just take it out and put road allowances, does that work, Lindsay, or does that not work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what I'm hearing is that the title would be Municipal Beach and Road Allowance Bylaw, if that's what council would be satisfied with.
Municipal beach being Reeves Bay, and then municipally owned property. Councillor Gilmore.
Well, that's okay, but if you just leave it as road allowance, that covers all kinds of stuff. Like, then you can't cross Shields Road, for instance, just picking that one. It's on the top of my mind at the moment. But just think about a way to tidy it up, and talk to, maybe Councillor Cridland can talk to you offline, and you can come to some compromise. That's all. I really don't care. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand where Councillor Cridland's coming from. And but like Harborview is really, I mean, yeah, if you drill down, it is kind of a road allowance on a bunch of rocks. But that's not apples to oranges when you compare the end of Augustine Road. So we just figure out a way to wordsmith it a bit. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McClellan.
Just wondering if we just called them lakefront beach road stubs. That's what they are. They're a little stub of road that touches the lake, right? So.
Okay. Another suggestion, I see our planners making notation. Okay, so are we, what I'm hearing is we're going to leave that with staff to come up with a title that kind of gets rid of the word beaches and makes reference to one beach, and road allowances that touch the water. Okay, so we'll look for that amendment to work on that, and have a presentation for probably the next council meeting. So direction. Yeah. Okay, so we'll receive this report, and with direction to staff to do what we've just discussed. So I'll take a vote for receiving it. In favor or opposed, Councillor McClellan?
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet?
In favor.
Councillor Cridland?
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore?
In favor.
I'm in favor, and that will come back to us. Thank you. Moving on, Drainage Staff Report 2022 Program Update. And we'll look to our Drainage Superintendent, Mark Jemison, to speak to that, please.
Great. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of Council. So Drainage Staff Report 2 is summarizing the work that was completed in 2021 and what we have proposed for 2022. The 2021 numbers were below average, mainly attributed to the wet seasons that we had last year. We intend to remedy that with a fulsome maintenance program that's identified in the report, and happy to report that it's currently underway. We've been mowing for about 2 weeks now, and knock on wood, if the weather continues, we're going to have a fairly decent season. Drain maintenance is dictated by the weather and by the federal and provincial regulations, and we have to balance those. So the distribution of the drain maintenance agreements that have been sent out to the property owners, that's underway. So if the property owners could return those, that would be helpful in getting our maintenance done. Another big piece of this report is identified on page 3 and 4, which discusses our engineering report updates. So Council has undertaken approximately 12 different engineers report updates through this term, which provides property owners with the opportunity to improve and update the municipal drains. It ensures that the engineering is up to modern standards and the regulatory requirements. This list is also available for review on the drainage portion of the updated Township website, and it's updated regularly. So if those involved need to keep track of the project, that's a good spot to check into. And as always, I encourage property owners to get in touch if they have any questions or concerns about maintenance or the condition of the drain on their property. As mentioned with the regulatory requirements, things often take a bit longer than we would like, so it's good to get those requests in early. And finally, I'm very happy to announce that the Drainage Program Open House will be held next week in person on Tuesday, the 12th at 7 p.m. in the Moore Room at the Arena. I'll be doing a bit more in-depth discussion about our maintenance program and engineers report updates, and the NPCA will also be on hand to do a presentation for our the floodplain project in the area, which is Beaver Creek and Big Forks. So I would be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I get a mover and a seconder, please, to receive DSR 02-2022 respecting the township's drainage program update. Please, Councillor McClellan will move it. Councillor Van Vliet seconds it. And discussion questions. Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mark. Mark, I'm still going to harp on Big Forks. And I wonder, is there any way that we can appeal, petition, convince the MPCA to actually let us brush the side that needed to be brushed? Both sides needed to be done. We're going to clean that out. It's already a mess because there's ash trees falling all over the place, and anything else that's still alive after we clean it out in the next year or two is going to fall in there. And it'll be, the last time I remember it being cleaned was 1990 by my house. So maybe it was done. So if we have to wait 30 more years, then we're going to have a big problem. And it's ridiculous that we had to brush the lee side of it in the first place, and that they didn't let us do both sides. So, I mean, I know I've been harping on you about this for a long time, but I think we have to implore them that it needs to be done both sides. End of discussion. And I don't know how we do that. Maybe we take them on at the drainage meeting on the 12th, and I'm happy to do that there too. But at the end of the day, it just has to be done at your level, I think. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that, in my view, that's just a disaster waiting to happen.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So for both sides of the drain to be done, there are a lot of environmental regulations in place. To be able to do a more big picture cleaning of that municipal drain, we would have to do it through an improvement project, through undertaking an engineer's report update, which the last time the drain was cleaned to that standard was in 1988, was when that report was initiated, and that's when they were able to accomplish that. Based on how my experience working through the Drainage Act and the regulations we have now, the best way to undertake a similar project of that scale would be through a Section 78 improvement project.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this part of the Fox Creek Big...
Microphone.
Sorry. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this part of the Big Fox Creek, this is the part that comes out and goes into the Welland River? Eventually?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the NPCA project that they will be presenting on, yes, is the full length of the Big Forks Creek, which enters into the Welland River. The Big Forks drain that the township has authority to maintain under the Drainage Act ends approximately at the mill race. So 100 meters north of Forks Road at Mill Race is where Big Forks ends as a municipal drain.
So where does it drain from there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it drains to the river.
Okay, so if you go down along the railroad tracks west of Hewitt and stand on that old trestle, there are so many dead ash trees in there, I'm not sure there's very much water going through that. I agree with Councilor Gilmore. That thing needs to be cleaned desperately. Like, I've gone down there a dozen times in the last 3 years, and it's brutal. So I don't know if ours ends, that's the Conservation Authority, so yes, we have to hammer on them to get that done.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. So that section would be a natural water course, and the maintenance and any work involved on natural water courses on private property would be the responsibility of the private property owner. For the municipality to complete maintenance on that, we would have to improve it as a drain, which would be a Section 78 drainage project. And there would be a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to get in there to do that type of work.
Well, that looks like something then we need to start planning on for the next number of years, start getting that work started if it's that bad. So, Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you. So just to be clear, so everybody's clear, our work is all west of, to the, like upstream from the mill race. Is that, we're not doing anything downstream. But so if we want to at least deal with the trees on our, then some landowner, or well, we can't petition it like, as a township. A landowner would have to petition the whole thing, essentially, to get the trees cleaned up.
Through Mr. Mayor, the Drainage Act gives us a variety of tools to complete the project. I would want to look at it a little further, but as a road authority, the township has the ability to petition that to happen.
I'm not sure that we want to have to do an engineer's report just to clean up a bunch of dead trees, but that'd be unfortunate if there can't be some common sense solution. But you know, I understand the box that you're in too. But and the other thing, we're doing 2,900 meters. I mean, the Big Forks goes a long way to the west, and it drains. I'm not sure if it drains more than all the consolidated drains, but I can tell you for sure it drains a big portion of Wainfleet. So we just have to figure out a way to look after it better, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cridlin, I think you had your hand up.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Again, just listening to the discussion, and it sounds like Mr. Jameson's got some ideas. Perhaps then, like you suggested, we could have at least a report come forward that just looks at this as a future piece of work for staff, residents, however, NPCA partnership, whatever it is we need. Would that make sense?
Thank you. Yes, I agree. As to Councillor Gilmore's point, it does drain a very large area of Wainfleet, and if it's in that bad a shape, then it's something that we need to start working on now, even if it's complex and expensive. But it's still going to be way cheaper than having flood damage everywhere. So we should start looking at that right away for planning for the future. When we started here, I know some of the old timers in Wainfleet said one of the most important things we have here is our drainage committee and our drains. And you can see that when it rains a lot, how important those drains are. So it's really important that we look after them and we don't get behind on them. So, okay. Also, I forgot to read in the motion there that the 2022 Municipal Drain Maintenance Program be approved. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, recorded vote then. Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
That is carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our planning staff reports. Site plan application for Sugarloaf Street, and I think we have Ms. Ivins zooming in, and please provide your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to all of council. So planning staff received a site plan application from the Niagara Catholic District School Board and the District School Board of Niagara to permit a new joint school board elementary school at the St. Elizabeth property. The new school is proposed to be constructed to the rear of St. Elizabeth School. And then the area of the existing school will contain the bus loading, pickup, drop off, and parking areas for the new school. So the proposed site plan is attached to the report as Appendix B, and there are also elevation drawings attached as Appendix C. So I've reviewed the application and applicable planning policies as well as agency comments, and I'm of the opinion that the site plan application should be approved, subject to the execution of a site plan agreement. In the recommendation section of the report, I'm also requesting that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute that site plan agreement once it's been finalized by all parties.
Thank you very much. Potential motion being that the memorandum from the planner respecting 2023 Niagara, wrong one, sorry, my apologies. The planning staff report 001-2022 be received, and that the site plan application SP03-2021W be approved subject to the execution of a site plan agreement, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a site plan agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet, the Niagara Catholic District School Board, and the District School Board of Niagara. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. Is there any discussion? Councillor Van Vliet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Sarah. Sarah, on Appendix A, on the diagram of the lot, on the, I think it's like the south side, the boundary line, that is running right through Diamond 1, not right through. So is that actually there? And right, I can't remember which building that is of the Heritage Village, right on the edge of it. Is this a true mapping of the lot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Van Vliet. Yes, that is an accurate boundary for the school property. The area where there's a fence, there's actually an existing easement agreement between the township and the school board for those lands.
So if I could continue. So that's not going to hinder anybody's use of the Ball Diamond or Marshville for those buildings, or I think it's even a little bit on the fringe of the cow barn or whatever we're calling it these days.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Van Vliet. I'm just looking at the site plan drawing. It does appear that the roadway for the parking area will kind of come right up to that proposed area, but there is this proposed grassed area. So the fence and the easement lands will remain as is, but the new parking area will be closer to that fence in that area than obviously the current school is.
Okay, thanks. I'll let anybody else go if they want. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a little unclear. Is this affecting the Ball Diamond or is it not affecting the Ball Diamond? Richard, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, through your worship and all members of council. The Ball Diamond fencing in Ball Diamond 1 is on our property. The property boundaries, the distance, there's two sets of fences there. There's the Ball Diamond fencing, which is on our property, and there's an existing fence further over, and there's like a laneway between. That laneway was given permission as an easement to the township, and they will be utilizing some of that property for the new school. But the Ball Diamond fencing and all our buildings and structures are on our property, and there's no proposal to move them.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Sarah, when I was reading through, I see that some level of bureaucracy is encouraging us to do a study on the traffic flow at the end of Park Street and Sugarloaf. So I assume that that's going to be our township's responsibility to come up with a potential plan for improvement. Is that right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gilmore. So that was a recommendation coming out of the traffic study that we may want the township, and again, the township would be responsible and coordinating with the Ministry of Transportation for that intersection of Sugarloaf Park and Highway 3. And the recommendation coming out of the traffic study, although not a requirement from the consultant, more of a recommendation of something to consider in the future, is clear direction and I think ultimately signage for that intersection. It's not necessarily clear coming from Sugarloaf that you have to stop at a certain point versus Park Street versus when you stop before entering Highway 3. So that is something that the township can look at in the future, but is not a requirement to support the development of the school.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. I mean, I agree that that intersection needs to be improved, maybe to the point of putting a traffic light there. There needs to be a crosswalk for the kids that are going to be walking across from the other side of the highway. And the other thing that, as I was staring at this map earlier, the other thing that might be a good idea would be to make Park Street one way to the west and not allow traffic. They'd have to go around the block to the feeder to get back on the highway. That's just something I thought of. But and I I'm not a fan of traffic lights, but in this situation, because the school's in the village and kids are going to be walking from the from largely the northeast corner, and who knows down the road whether they'll be coming from the northwest. Hopefully not as long as I'm living, but at any rate, maybe we should think about petitioning a traffic light there, which I know is a decades undertaking, but you might have to start the ball rolling. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely, child safety there it's quite a risky spot for children to cross, and that's a great observation by Councillor Gilmore on that. So we could ask our planner as we move forward on this to certainly bring that into the discussion with MTO and others that were being involved in this. Any other comments? Councillor McClellan?
Seeing as we're in the site plan department, let's ask the school boards to take that and let them put it in. They're changing how everything works. It should be part of their development.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And to Sarah, that would all be involved in the site plan agreement, who takes responsibility for what. And so that would be certainly something that would be great for them to take that on. Good point.
At least worth an ask.
Yes. Any other comments before we vote on this? Councillor Cridlin, I didn't see a hand, but you're good. Everybody else is good. Okay, on the motion that sits on the floor, recorded vote, please. Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
I'm in favor. That is carried. Moving on to the Memorandum 2023 Niagara Ortho Photography Project Letter of Intent. And we'll look to our planner, Sarah Ivins, to speak to that again, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Niagara Region is looking to establish a partnership with local municipalities, regional agencies, utility providers, as well as educational institutions and other non-government agencies to acquire digital aerial imagery for Niagara as a whole. So township staff use this aerial imagery on a daily basis, and obtaining current imagery is imperative to our operations and our day-to-day duties within our respective positions. Niagara Region has requested that all interested parties sign and return a letter of intent by the end of April. And this letter of intent is to determine whether or not there's enough interest in the project as well as funding so that it can proceed to an RFP stage. The preliminary 2023 commitment for the township is $5,000. I will note that this is subject to change once the number of participants has been identified and the RFP results have been received. So given that this imagery is essential to many township departments, planning staff will be submitting a letter of intent on behalf of the township. And then at a later date, we'll bring back a report identifying the final cost to the 2023 budget and requesting authorization to sign a formal participant agreement to secure our participation in the project.
Okay, thank you. Motion being a memorandum from the planner respecting 2023 Niagara Ortho Photography Project Letter of Intent be received as information. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. And any discussion? Councillor McClellan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sarah, would this be something that the public could use, the same as Niagara Navigator, or is the public going to be blocked out of this?
So it may be available through the region's public Niagara Navigator site, but the availability will be delayed. Obviously, for those who are paying for it, we'll get it right away. And then after a certain amount of time, it will be considered free data, as it will be outdated at that point. So the public may not get to see it right away, but there will be a timeline once it's outdated where it will be released as public information. But by paying and participating up front, we get it when the product delivery is released in the fall of 2023.
Councillor McClellan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when you say it would be delayed, is it 6 months or is it a year? Is it 3 years delay? What, do you have any idea what kind of timeline it is?
It's usually 2 to 3 years. I can pull up the terms of reference and get a firm number for you.
Of interest on this too is that we use this every day here. Staff use it every day for every kind of planning report, looking at things. I know I'm on there as well, and it's an extremely valuable tool to us. Are you close, Sarah?
Yes, sorry. So the terms of reference says after a period of 4 years.
4 years.
So by then it's considerably out of date and is more of a reference tool for historical and not current, obviously.
It's kind of late, but yeah, I guess it's better than nothing, but not much good.
Okay, any other discussion? Councillor Cridland.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Zivans. You mentioned that it's $5,000 for the 2023 commitment. And the change that we're talking about, could it be more or would it be less based on what you're thinking right now?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Cridland. I would guess because of gas prices, and we'll have to fuel a jet to fly over Niagara region and capture this imagery, that potentially the cost could be a little bit higher. But again, there's so many variables in making that assessment. I know the last time we participated in 2018, there was a significant amount of interested parties. And the hope is that we'll actually have additional parties this time around. So the number could potentially reduce if we're dividing it between more parties. But with the price of gas, that could also influence the tender or the bid results for this project. So it's kind of difficult to say where we will end up because there are a couple of factors that will drive that final cost.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. So, again, maybe just the CAO in terms of technicalities. This is just a letter of intent, and the numbers that we're talking about are reasonable based on the information we have. So thank you. I'm happy to support that.
Okay, thank you. And if there's no further discussion or questions, I'll look for a recorded vote. In favor or opposed, Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
Favor.
And I'm in favor. That is carried. Moving on, Public Works Staff Report 004-2022, Local Authority Services Municipal Buying Group. This is a piece of good news. Look to our Operations Chief, Mr. Nan.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. As the mayor mentioned, this is Public Works in front of you for consideration. This is Public Works Staff Report 004-2022. This report highlights a recent procurement opportunity for the Township of Wainfleet. As council is aware, we are a member of Association of Municipalities of Ontario, short form AMO. And as a member, we are awarded the opportunity to participate in various programs that they offer, free of charge. Most recently, we participated in the Local Authority Municipal Buying Program. The program offers a variety of services, including administrative services, asset services, commodity programs, and energy services. Included in the commodities program is known as the Canoe Procurement Group. This program helps the municipality save time and money on everything from paper clips to fire trucks. Benefits also include competitive bid process for suppliers, which saves the time for municipalities to have to do their own RFPs. And it's fully compliant with trade agreements as well. It affords Canada-wide purchasing power for better pricing, access hundreds of vendors across multiple categories, receives direct support from the LAS program, and we can continue to work with our local retailers for service and support. Each commodity category offered in the program begins with the preparation of the request for proposals, which is done by LAS, and the results of which are available only to participating municipalities. Each municipality has to register with LAS and has an opportunity to receive the current bid prices for commodities that are bid by suppliers on a national level. Because the competitive RFP has already been completed by LAS, members can contact the service of the commodity dealers directly to receive a quote for the commodities and service requested. The prices are offered nationally and significant savings are realized. The program is offered to members of AMO with no membership fees, no minimum purchases, and no bidding contracts. As mentioned in the report, staff have already participated in the program and have realized significant savings. Staff are recommending that Council authorize the Township staff to utilize the local authority municipal buying program for future purchases when available. One thing I'd like to mention is the program itself affords us an opportunity to mix and match as well. For instance, a component may be you're purchasing, like, say, the fire truck. It may not offer the actual truck itself, but the components of the truck may be offered through the program. So you can mix and match. You can still buy your vehicle and buy the components through the program, and then it's combined in a single quote. So we can mix and match or pick and choose whatever was best for us, wherever the savings are best for the municipality. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm now available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nan. So, motion being that this report regarding a local authority services municipal buying group be received, and that council authorize township staff to utilize the local authority municipal buying group program for future purchases when available. I have a mover and a seconder to put it on the floor for discussion, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Van Vliet. And discussion or questions? I know when I was speaking with Mr. Nan earlier, the dollar amount that we discussed on a piece of equipment being purchased was like 20% savings, 25% savings on a $500,000 item. So it's a phenomenal opportunity for us, and it's definitely serving the taxpayer in every way. So, okay, there's no other discussion. In favor or opposed? Councillor McClellan?
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet?
In favor.
Councillor Cridland?
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore?
Favor.
And I am in favor. That is carried. Okay, and I think Councillor, he's already on his way out. Thank you. This is PWSR 005-2022 regarding award of tender for Lakeshore Road drainage and road improvements. And again, we'll look to Mr. Nan to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Worship and members of Council. This project was presented to Council a couple years ago as part of our road safety study and identified severe drop-off hazards with the concurrent configuration and roadside location on Lakeshore Road. The project began with engineering in 2021, and as a result of consultation with the residents that are affected in the area, the project, if awarded, will also alleviate not only the roadside hazard, but erosion of the embankment, and with the additional it will additionally correct the flooding that the local residents are encountering during heavy rain events. Staff have received the necessary easements with the property owners to complete the project, and because the road and construction is encroaching within their property boundaries. Staff have prepared a tender according to the township procurement policy, and the results and recommendations are included and to present to council for consideration. I'm now available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Motion that Public Works Staff Report PWSR 005-2022 respecting award of tender for Lakeshore Road drainage and road improvements be received, and that the council direct the manager of operations to engage the services of Rankin Construction to complete the Lakeshore Road drainage and road improvements. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Cridland. Thank you. And discussion. Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Richard, just remind me again where this is occurring.
Through your worship to Councillor Gilmore, it is actually, you're probably familiar with the Stan Pettit property, where there's a drop off. There's the road is elevated and it drops off to the properties. It's between those two properties, but additionally, we have to take the water and outlet it towards a municipal drain. And because the elevation of the south side properties during heavy rains, it literally comes off of their properties and down their driveways to the point where it goes directly across the road. So they're not only getting a little bit of road or water from the road, they're getting it from the properties on the opposite side. So that's one of the reasons why we're starting to have erosion on the edge of the road. So we're actually losing the road as well. So we'll be building retaining walls as well as putting curb and gutter so we can direct that water flow so it no longer floods those properties.
Okay, Councillor Van Vliet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Richard, I'm just wondering, because the highest came in at almost 660 and the lowest at 370. That's a significant difference. Is there a reason for that?
Through your worship, I can't speak for the contractors. I'm glad to see that the prices did come in as low as they did. But we've noticed that a couple of times that maybe they're not busy, or maybe they're just trying to get some work lined up for their employees early on.
Okay, thanks. That's what I noticed, the jump, but thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cridland.
Thank you. Through you again, Mayor, to Mr. Nan. Again, thank you for, keeping this one moving along. I know it's been a long time watching this one. And I think I mentioned earlier, it just bears repeating that out of all this, there'll be a lot of disruption in this area. So for everybody just to be patient, to maybe check the website for whatever updates. But I know all of the area will be very happy to see this work done. It's a very high traffic area in this area, so we'll all just need to be a lot more aware. Thank you.
And when did we expect this to start?
Through your worship, we will be awarding it as soon as, if it's approved, I'll be awarding it first thing tomorrow morning. I'll be making those phone calls, and then I'll be setting up a pre-planning meeting with the contractor. We're hoping to get started as quick as possible. There's obviously some supplies that are going to have to be ordered, and hopefully most of the supplies in this case should be fairly quick in getting. But yes, it will be fairly disruptive for a while because of the property boundaries. The storm sewer collection system will literally be right down the middle of the road. So we will be closing the road for a period of time. But we will be allowing the residents access to their properties as much as we can through that process. And we will also be notifying all the residents in the affected area prior to us getting started.
Okay, good. That was going to be my question, but you just answered it. It's always important to keep residents informed on what's going on. So, any other questions? Seeing none, recorded vote on this motion, please. Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
Favor.
And I am in favor. That is carried.
And Mr. Mayor, just for the record, Councillor McClellan declared an interest and has not been in the chambers during this discussion.
Correct. And actually, the next item, 006, 2022, regarding award of tender for Gents Road Bridge replacement. Councillor McClellan has also declared a conflict of interest in that and will remain out of the room until the end of this one as well. And I look to our Chief of Operations again, Mr. Nan. Please provide your information.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll keep this one short because as Council's aware, this project has been in the works for many, many years. We're happy to finally have an opportunity to present to Council the final stage of the awarding of contract. I don't think I need to remind Council of the difficult decisions it has faced regarding this bridge and the input you've received from the members of the public regarding the options and the choices for the type of bridge being installed. I'm pleased to present the Council with the results of the tender. that was prepared as per the township procurement policy. And again, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Motion that PWSR 006-2022 respecting the Gents Road Bridge replacement be received, and that council authorize the manager of operations to engage the services of Anthony's Excavating to complete the replacement of Gents Road Bridge. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Van Vliet. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Recorded vote. Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor?
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
I am in favor. That is carried. And Councillor McClellan can come back into chambers. Okay, moving on to PWSR 007-2022, consideration of an electric vehicle. And again, we'll look to our operations chief to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. This report was requested by council regarding the possibility of purchasing electric vehicles. Staff have researched the various manufacturers and contacted various suppliers that supply these types of vehicles. We've contacted the suppliers that fit within our budgetary allotment. With limits, okay, certain limits. As indicated by the report, electric vehicles are not a new concept, but recently some components are very hard to obtain for production of the vehicles. Staff have also investigated various charging systems that include type models, for instance, your home models, which are 110 and 220, that are normally located inside a garage area. And then there's other units that are located outside, and they have to be contained in a weatherproof system. Those are available in 110, 240 as well, depending on the type of vehicle and the type of charging system you want. So the lower the grade of charger, for instance, a level 1 charger, it takes the longest time to charge, and it takes the least amount of electricity. They vary in prices because of the designs. If you have a fleet type of secured system, it's a quick padlock system that just stops the plug from going into the vehicle. All the way up to where you have the ones you see currently, the pay-as-you-go type of systems, where you actually pay to plug in. Those systems obviously are a lot more expensive. The installation of the electrical service is probably the largest component of it, depending on the location of where your panel is, and the distance you have to travel, and the size of the wire based on the current that you're providing. So the reason why the pricing is so varied is because it depends on where you put the charger, basically, and how far you got to go, and how much current you need to get to that final location. Staff will be researching various options for future installation as we do see the industry moving that direction. And we will also be looking for potential grant programs to assist in the financial costs for the installation. The industry supply chain is currently finding difficulty in supplying the overwhelming demand for electric vehicles, especially now with the increased cost of fuel. Staff have provided its recommendations for council consideration in the body of the report.
Thank you very much. Motion that this report 007-2022 respecting the consideration of electric vehicle be received, and that council direct the manager of operations to proceed with tendering for 2 hybrid gas-electric non-plug-in all-wheel drive SUVs. A mover and a seconder for that, Councillor Gilmore and Councillor McClellan. And discussion. Councillor Cridland, go ahead.
Thank you, through Mayor. I again just want to thank staff for this really quick turnaround on this, this change, this output from budget discussions, and to have something in front of us like this and offering some savings. So I just want to thank staff for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to thank the councillors that came up with this as a thought. I remember Councillor McClellan being a fairly big champion of this and where we're going in the world today with electric vehicles. So It's going to be good for the environment. It's going to be good for us to use this. So hopefully it all works out. Okay, so any other discussion? Councillor Gilmore?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I concur with your comments. I think in light of where you are right now, this is your only real option because of supply problems. I guess the only comment I would have is that we probably need to get ahead of the curve on what's coming down the pipe. If the current coalition in Ottawa gets its way, we'll all be buzzing around somehow with extension cords to the house. But I'm not sure how it's all going to work, but at any rate, it's likely not going to get any better than it is now. So I think that you might as well start thinking about how to set the township up in the long term with the availability of trying to accommodate these potentially new vehicles. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments, then recorded vote on this to support this. Councillor, or not support it. Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
And I am in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to the memorandum regarding the purchase of the roadside mower. And again, we'll look to Mr. Nan to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I'd like to start off by apologizing for the late submission of the memo, as I just received the updated pricing yesterday, and I didn't want to wait until the May meeting in order to proceed with it. As mentioned in the previous staff report, staff are participating in the LAS Municipal Buying Program. Staff prepared budget considerations based on quotes that we received last fall from the various suppliers in anticipation of approval for a formal tendering process. As indicated earlier this evening, we found significant savings utilizing the program offered to the municipalities as members of AMO. Original quotations received from suppliers with budgetary purposes suggested that staff allocate $390,000 for the purchase of the roadside mower, including the tractor and the necessary mowing assemblies. Staff have the ability now to utilize all or part of the program and are able to combine quotations from suppliers that may participate in the program. In this instance, even though Kubota Tractor was not able to provide pricing through the program, the mower attachments were priced through the program, and we combined it with the quote from the local Kubota dealer in an attempt to provide comparable quotes. Unfortunately, in consultation with Kubota and the mower supplier, only certain attachments are available at this time with the same size tractors and the comparable models. Staff have provided the latest pricing received yesterday, and the recommendations are contained within the report.
Okay, thank you. So a motion that the memorandum from the Manager of Operations respecting the purchase of the roadside mower be received for information. A mover seconder for that, please. Councillor Cridland, yes. Councillor. Thank you. And Councillor McClellan. Any discussion? Sorry? Discussion? Councillor Van Vliet, I saw. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Richard, I'm just wondering what the delivery date would be, because I know that we recently ordered a tractor in December. It might be delivered next week.
Through your worship to Councillor Van Vliet, actually, the case tractor is on location, and the mower attachments are actually on location as well. So it's just a matter of assembly and putting it together.
It's because we bought red. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Gilmore.
My point exactly from the CAO is more than information receiving going on here.
I don't have it. Yeah, okay. It's not here.
Well, no. I mean, if we're going to accept this report, then we're authorizing the purchase as stated in option 1. So,
yeah, when you say it's on location, Richard, is it like on our?
No.
Oh,
I apologize. It's actually at the dealer location.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council. Because this information just came in yesterday and the original agenda was published on Friday, some of you may have downloaded the original agenda and not gotten the amendments. Not everyone has the amendments. So what is being proposed is that staff be authorized to proceed with the acquisition of a case maximum 115 tractor and associated more equipment as outlined in the options section of the agenda, or of the report, of the memorandum, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. So we'll add that into the motion as the CAO just read it. And that's moved and seconded. Do it again for that amendment to it. Councillor Van Vliet and Councillor Gilmore for that portion of it. Is there any other discussion? Councillor Gilmore?
Richard, just one more question through the mayor. So the Kubota tractor, you can't put on everything that we need to put on for our purposes. It can take some stuff, but not the right stuff. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Gilmore, yes, in consultation with Kubota and with the dealer, and because of the new configuration of the Kubota tractor itself, it's not the chassis components, it's actually the emissions components that were designed on the new tractor. It doesn't allow us to put the Bengal Brute, which has the breakaway attachment on the end of the mower. It can't be installed on that type of tractor. That's the unfortunate part. Even the dealer that we spoke to was kind of upset because they thought it was the same, but when they gotten through the specs, they realized that it can't be mounted on that style tractor. The only way we can get that style tractor or that manufacturer of tractor is we would actually upsize the model to go with a larger tractor in order to fit that component. And again, to make things fair and comparable to people to bid, the unfortunate part is we can't put that style unit on it. We can get the solid boom mower on it, but it does not come with, we cannot install it, the one that has the breakaway at the end of the boom.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, recorded vote then to approve or not approve. Councillor McClellan?
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet?
In favor.
Councillor Cridland?
In favor?
Councillor Gilmore?
In favor.
And I am in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, review of correspondence. Report PW 15-2022, moving transit forward, initial transition activities and next steps. Is there any discussion on this, moving transit forward, initial transition activities and next steps? Councillor Cridland.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I'd like to propose that we move this item into closed session due to it involving and identify an individual, and we can add it to the closed meeting below.
Okay. Do we need to vote on that? No, just add it to the closed session.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, just referring it to closed if members want to discuss availability and which members of council would wish to sit on this. We have in the past considered matters such as this in closed, and any final decision would have to be made in open session following the closed session deliberations.
Okay, thank you. So then we'll thank you, Councillor Cridland. We'll move that into closed session.
Thank you.
No bylaws. Notice of motion. Are there any notices of motion from any councillors? Seeing none. Okay, so I make a motion that council now move into closed session to discuss A, item under section 2B of the Municipal Act, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, 2 items, a staffing matter, and appointment to agencies, boards, and committees. Have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Councillor McClellan, in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
Favor.
I'm in favor, so we will now move into closed session. Thank you.